In this walkthrough I'm going to take you through using geolocation in your web pages and the process you need to follow in order to enable it. So let's go straight to this HTML page, geolocation.htm, and start putting some code in it. The first thing you need to do is ask a browser whether it supports geolocation, and what you do is check whether the geolocation property here of the navigator object is defined or not. So here, if the type of navigator geolocation equals undefined, that means it's not defined, it doesn't exist, and so geolocation is not supported. So in that instance you need to handle that. You could display an alert popping something up, or you could just not do anything, or you could try and perform another kind of geolocation, perhaps based on looking up their IP address and seeing what that correlates to. Anyway, let's look at what happens if it is supported. So here's the else part of the if. This code is only executed if the first one, if the test made in the first part here is false. So, and here's what we can do. We then call the getCurrentPosition function on the geolocation property of the navigator object. So if that doesn't make a lot of sense, you don't worry, just copy this code. This is what you need to use. And then you have to pass to it the names of two functions that you're going to be writing, and I'll show you what these functions should look like. The first one I've called granted, and the second one I've called denied, but you can call them anything you like. And the idea is, in the granted function you do all the things that you need to do when you're given the geolocation information, and in the denied function you do some error handling. So let's step forwards and look at how these functions are assembled. So here we have function granted. It's just to build a function, you just put the name function in front of it and then follow that by the name of the function you want. In the brackets there is the argument position. Now this is the argument that's going to be passed to the function by the browser containing the location. So the first thing that this function does is take the inner HTML of the status div. Okay, up here in the body, just there, div id equals status slash div. So that's an empty div in which the status is going to be written, and it's going to say permission granted. Okay, next a local object is given the string http://maps Google Maps q equals plus some other stuff, which is the position object. Remember this one here, which is passed to the function by the browser. So this position object with the coords property and the latitude of that property, which will be a latitude number, which you'll see in a minute. And then also adding to that the position of longitude. And once those have been assembled, then the map iframe up here, which has been embedded in the page, it's 640 pixels wide and 320 high, doesn't have anything in it to start with, but that element is now populated by setting its source object to the result of this URL. And what happens is there, that pulls in the Google page for that location. Right, now let's look at the denied function. This is what you have to do to handle a case where the user said, no, I'm not going to let you have my data. So in this case, the error, the value in error, is what's passed to this function by the browser. And in this line here, I'm preparing a variable called message, which will be used in a moment. So the first thing to do, once you have that error object, is to look at its code property using a switch statement. That's a piece of JavaScript that will enable you to go through all the different potential values that it could have. So for example, in the case that it has a value of 1, set message, which is this variable up here, set it to permission denied, because that's what happens. If the browser sends you that value, permission's been denied by the user. If it sends you a 2, the position's not available. The browser just doesn't know how to get it, and it tells you that. In the case of 3, the browser's been trying to find the information, but for one reason or other it's taken too long, so it's given up. And if there's any other kind of error that hasn't been thought of, but something goes wrong, then there'll be a value of 4 passed. In each of these cases, the message string here, the message variable, is given the correct value for whatever went wrong. So then at the end, the status div, all the way up here, this div is then populated by setting its inner HTML value to the message. And so therefore you'll have a simple error message displayed right at the top of the browser. So let's save this and see what it looks like here in the browser. And as you see, geolocation HTML wants to track your physical location. Okay, I'll allow it once. So click allow. Permission granted. Let's take a look at that up here. Permission granted. We've been successful. So the div with the ID of status here has been populated with this string, permission granted. So that's good. And underneath there is an iframe. Here it is. There's the border going all the way around here. So here's the iframe within which the URL that was generated here, which is maps.google.com, etc., etc., that URL has been loaded into the iframe with my location. And there's a map here and a picture and so on. The only problem with this is it's only got close to me, it's only got approximate, because I don't have a GPS system in this computer I'm using right now, and neither does it have a Wi-Fi connection or a mobile connection to a local cell phone tower. So without any of those means of getting fairly close to where I am, the IP address is being used, and that is actually a place about 100 miles away where these buildings happen to be. So it's got close, but if I had GPS or any other much more accurate means of identifying my location enabled in this computer, it would have shown somewhere possibly within a few tens of yards of where I am right now.